Hello, Josh. Welcome to the podcast. We're so excited to have you here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to talk with us and give us some pointers about education and your career and how that kind of all ties together. So, before we dive into that too much, though, can you give us a little bit of a background of who you are, what you do, any interests you have, things like that?
Sure. My name is Josh Gudgeon. I'm actually Sarah's brother. So I'm a firefighter for City of Milwaukee in Wisconsin. I've been a firefighter for almost 11 years. My position is heavy equipment operator. So I actually drive the big rig, the engine or the truck. And I've been doing that for about 6 years. Um, so yeah, firefighting was just something you know, it was cool as a kid. And so I kind of, wanted to learn more about it, and here I am.
That's awesome. So, this was kind of something you always wanted to do your whole life. And so you knew that's what you were going to pursue after high school?
Well, not exactly. I mean, it was something as a kid I thought was cool, and but I guess not really something I thought like right after, high school that I would get into. Um, I actually, after high school, I was all set up to go to a 4-year academy or 4-year college at Whitewater, and I was just going to go for general business education. Didn't really have a plan. Um, yeah, I really didn't know what I wanted to do at that time, and it was probably about a month before I had started, and I was like, nah, something just doesn't feel right. I don't want to just spend my money at a college. Don't know what I'm going for, and that's when I kind of took more of a deep dive into firefighting. My uncle was a firefighter in Phoenix, Arizona, for quite a long time, and I talked to him about it, and um, that's when I kind of piqued my interest a little more and was like, oh, this is actually something I could maybe do. And then from there, I decided to not go to Whitewater, and I started just visiting firehouses in my area and talking to local firefighters and seeing what I had to do to get hired as a fireman.
Nice.
So what was the process once you decided, okay, yeah, this is what I want to do? Then what? Because you were enrolled at Whitewater,
right.
you withdrew, or what? How you withdrew,
So
and then
yeah,
what happened?
I basically withdrew. I called, I think it was my counselor, whoever at the time, and just said, hey, this is not what I want to do anymore. I actually had a roommate already assigned to me. I was going to be in the dorms. I, emailed him, let him know I'm not going to be there. And so then when I had gone to the firehouses and talked to the firefighters there, and they all pretty much told me the same thing, and which direction to head, and that was to go to MATC, which is a local community college, and get your certificates. They have different certificate courses that you take. Uh, there's like firefighter 1, firefighter level 2, the EMT basic, which is emergency medical technician, and they kind of have everything in the program. It's a 2-year program at that community college that I went to, and you get all your certificates. You get some extra courses thrown in there, and you get an associate's degree in fire science is what they called it. So
Okay.
that's the route I went, signed up, basically went, I think it was a couple days that it all happened. I went to the firehouses, talked to the firefighters, and then went right to MATC, less than a month before school was going to be starting, and just said, this is what I want to do. And I enrolled in the classes and did
That's
it.
awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I've never known like the steps of what it takes to become a fireman. So it's really cool to hear like, oh, this is the process and there's these classes and obviously EMT training, right? Because
Right.
you're sometimes the first one on the scene at some of these things.
And so I mean, that's not necessarily the route that you have to go. I mean,
Okay.
every department is a little different. And actually I got hired on in Milwaukee, City of Milwaukee, which they didn't even require an associate's degree or actually any firefighting education at all. A lot of the big cities are kind of like that. So all they required is, that you were 18 years old, you had a valid driver's license, and that you're a U.S. citizen. That was like the only requirements. And then, you send an application, there's a testing process. And so not every department requires all that training before you start. But
Okay.
that was kind of the direction that I was told to go. And it's obviously was a, good thing to get that out of the way and have that knowledge, ahead of time going into the fire service. So
Yeah, for sure. So do you feel like having that education and those certifications kind of gave you an edge over maybe some of your other fellow firefighters where you're able to maybe just have better experience or safety or just overall knowledge, I
yeah,
guess?
absolutely. I mean, so just in the testing process alone for Milwaukee, you get extra bonus points. Like if you have an associate's degree,
Okay.
you get even more if you have like a bachelor's degree. So there's like certain bonus points you get through the like the testing process when you apply, and that definitely helped out. And then even just going through the testing process, having that knowledge of firefighting and taking the courses that I took, definitely helped out, and kind of prepared me for that interview process. And so I would say, yeah, definitely gave me an edge over other people that might just be going into it blindly and not really know what to expect. So
So
Yeah.
bigger cities have, I would say, somewhat rigorous process of, so you went through the 2 years, you got your degree, then you went to apply for the job, right?
mhm.
Tell us a little bit about the process once you did that, because some people get put on a list, so like just walk us through that and what your experience was.
Sure. So after I applied for Milwaukee, which just happened to be the time they were accepting applications was shortly after I had graduated with my associate's degree. So the timing worked out well for me. Milwaukee, I think they usually accept applications every 4 years or so. So you kind of got to, keep your eye out, and it's not like cities are just always hiring, there's a specific time frame. And usually that information's on like the city website or something. You can go on there, and I think I even signed up, put my email address down, hey, notify me when you guys are hiring, and then they'll notify you, or just kind of keep your eye out. So yeah, so I I applied for Milwaukee. It's quite an extensive process. I mean, I think there was over 6,000 applicants like when I applied. And so you first, you put your application in, give your background, whatever, and then they do a written test. So I forget how long it was, but took several hours, and it's not necessarily just specific to firefighting. I mean, it's general knowledge, but having that firefighting background definitely helped. And then after the written test, they narrow it down, and then they do like an interview process. So after they cut it down, and I forget how many, maybe only took the top 2,000 to 3,000, and did like it was like when I did, it was a video interview. So you sat down and answered some questions into a camera. And again, not necessarily firefighting specific for Milwaukee, but again, definitely helped. And just taking the class that I took helped prepare me for that interview process and the questions they would ask. So then after that, then they narrow it down again, and maybe to like 1,500 people or so. And then you got to do you got to pass the background check, which is very thorough. I had to have an interview with a police investigator, and they check everything from your background, and can't have any criminal background, nothing like that. Can't be getting in trouble as a kid, and expecting to get hired on. So and then there's a physical test that you have to do. There's like a health check background, make sure you don't have like severe asthma or something that would prevent you from doing the duties of the job. And then there's also a psychological evaluation. You have to talk with a psychiatrist, and make sure everything's good there. And so I mean, this whole process, it takes several months. I mean, and you're just waiting on them to get a hold of you and to call you back, and you're just hoping like, oh, I hope I made it. And so
Yeah.
it's definitely a challenging time where you just do the best you can and sit and wait. And then after they do all that, they basically rank everyone, and then when it's time for them to start a new recruit class, they usually take about like 40 to 50 guys, and they guys or girls, I should say. So they would take the top 50, and then you get the call and say, all right, you made it into this next recruit class. if you're still interested. And then they give you the start date, you know, do orientation, and then you start the academy. And then the academy is a whole nother point.
I'm
So
sure.
then,
I
so
mean,
like,
just to get to that point sounds like
yeah,
it's intense. And then it's like,
yeah,
all
just to
right,
get to that
we're
point.
in, now the real work starts, right?
Yeah, right. And so, and I mean, I was, you know, kind of knew what I was getting into. So I was physically preparing, you know, going on long runs, lifting weights, you know, doing all this stuff. But there was definitely some people I think that were shocked at what it was and didn't really quite know what to expect. And I mean, it's a very
It's almost
physical
like boot
process.
camp for
It's a,
military.
yeah, it's basically like a boot camp. I mean, and then I believe it was 16 weeks long. So about 4 months. And it's a mix between like actual like physical learning on the fire ground and also book work. And that's where again, you know, having that background going to the community college, I kind of had already gone through a lot of those courses. So that was just a review for me, which was made it way easier. Where some of these people are seeing it for the first time, you know, when they're going through this rigorous academy and they got to do all this studying. And on top of that, you know, your body's taking a physical beating. So it's, I mean, it's definitely a rigorous process, you know, just going through the academy.
Yeah.
And if there was, I think maybe 6 people in my class that end up failing out of the academy, you know, after going through the whole process of getting hired on, and then just wasn't able to make it through the academy, either physically or, you know, they failed some tests or whatever. Um, so yeah, and then after, if you do make it through that 16-week academy, you do all the training, you basically learn everything you need to learn to be a, you know, a real firefighter. And after you graduate, they assign you to a company and you're right in there. I mean, first day you could
Wow.
be, you know, having a fire and you got to know what you're doing. Your crew's relying on you. So kind of just thrown right in there. And
Wow. Yeah, that sounds intense. Like I mean, I've toured firehouses before with like the nieces and nephews, and you know, the firemen are showing you, oh hey, here's the truck and here's the hose and here's the equipment, and just putting the backpack on, I'm like, yeah, I would need to do some heavy duty work to be in shape to haul this up like 4 flights of stairs, right? So
yeah.
I mean, just that alone, you know, and then you pair it with the day-to-day tasks. And so I know a lot of people in their minds probably have this like glorified idea of like you're always on fires and you're always busy that way. But really, what does like a typical day look like for a firefighter?
So yeah, typical day, I was, you know, taking you basically from the beginning when you come into work. The schedule that we have, most fire departments do something similar that we do. We spend 24 hours in the firehouse.
Okay.
And then you have 48 hours off. So basically every third day you work.
Mhm.
So you're going to the firehouse for 24 hours, sometimes 48 hours if, you know, if you're working an overtime or, you know, make a trade with someone.
Mhm.
But so you're in the firehouse for a while, but so you get to work. Got to make sure you're on time early. Actually, it's don't ever want to be late in the fire service. So you get there, you know, ahead of time, and you're assigned to a specific rig, and you have a crew that you basically work with every day when you go to work. So you get there, you're checking out all your equipment, checking out the fire truck, make sure everything's in its proper place. You know, nothing got misplaced from the day before. Making sure all your gear is ready. You know, your firefighter equipment. You check your mask, your SCBA. Make sure that that's working properly. Because if, you know, say first thing in the morning you get sent to a fire, you want to make sure that, you know, that's your lifeline, wearing that mask and breathing that air. So you want to make sure that's good right away. So, you know, after checking everything out in the morning, make sure everything's good. Then usually we do house cleaning, you know, clean the bathrooms, clean, you know, do mopping up, just kind of tidying up around the firehouse, make sure we keep that clean. Um, and then usually, you know, maybe like a little downtime, sit around, chit chat, talk, you know, maybe if there's a game plan for the day. Guys are, you know, usually sipping on their coffee, seeing if there's any, you know, anything planned for the day, any training or anything like that. Um, and a lot of times, you know, we do have training planned, if whether it be, you know, a full day. Sometimes it, you know, starts from like 9 and goes till 4. Sometimes it might just be a couple hours of training. Sometimes it's more of a formal thing. Sometimes it's just an informal training, you know, with your crew. So it, you know, it depends. Every day can be a little different. And but then usually in the morning, we'll also go shopping at the grocery store to prepare for meals for the day. one guy in the firehouse usually always cooks. So guys chip in their own money and, go to the store, get the food for the day and cook lunch and cook dinner. And, all while we're doing this, obviously we're still, anytime a call comes in, you got to be ready to go,
You just
on
drop
the spot. Yeah. Basically, you're just dropping everything and going on that call. And, so, and then usually afternoon is if there's no training going on, you have a little downtime. And then evening is, dinner and kind of settle down doing maybe a little studying at night. And then during the night, if, try to get some sleep if you can. Most busy companies are running most of the night, but, you can get, a couple hours of sleep, or some nights you might get lucky and, get a full night's sleep, but, and then, get off work at the next morning and go home.
So I imagine that you would become somewhat close to some of the people you work with, because you're essentially like, you're shopping with these people, you're cleaning with these people, you're in this house together.
Right. You're basically living with these people every third day. I mean, most guys, call it their second family. I mean, you're spending more time with these guys than, a lot of your own family a lot of the times, and so you get very close with them. And not only that, but I mean, you're relying on these guys, with your life, if you're going into fires with them, and you got to trust each other and train together, make sure everyone knows what they're doing. And, but yeah, I mean, we get very close with each other, when you're spending a full day, sometimes 2 days straight together, you learn about people's lives. And
so you hear the jokes about the shenanigans that happen at the firehouse. Is that a real thing, or like, do you guys play pranks on each other? Is that just like a funny thing that has gotten blown out of proportion over the years?
I mean, it definitely happens. I think it was more prevalent, back in the day. It still happens for sure. I think people got to be a little more careful now on certain pranks they pull, and obviously with phones out recording, and there's little strict rules these days, but there's definitely still pranks that go on. But yeah, there's some of the stories I hear of guys back 20-30 years ago. It's like pretty crazy stuff, but
well,
but yeah,
it's
there's still some,
like you said, though, they're going to be trying to play pranks and jokes and that camaraderie.
Yeah, exactly. That helps build camaraderie and, helps get you close to the guys. And summertime is water wars, we soak each other down with the, with the water. And
so what
way to cool off.
That's fun. So what, like Angelique was saying before, you have this mind, or like we have this picture in our mind of what we think a firefighter does, but what percentage of what you actually do is fighting fires, and what is just like other maybe EMT type calls and stuff like that? So
yeah, this is, I mean, an important part of it that, people might want to know is that we don't just fight fires like all day long. That's, while we do that, it's actually a small percentage of our call volume. So most of the calls that we go on are medical calls. And like I said, when we go through EMT training, it's emergency medical technician. You're learning, how to take care of someone, CPR, wound management, learn, what kind of medicine to give people if they're having a heart attack or stroke or all kinds of things. So really think about anytime, someone's going to call 911. I mean, the fire department is going to show up unless it's, something police related, but everything else the fire department usually goes to. So anytime someone's sick and calls 911, we go to respond. So that's usually 85 to 90% of our calls are EMS related. So, and, EMT basic is the basic level. Then there's also paramedic training, which a lot of people in the department go through, which is just another level of medical training, higher level. So
that could potentially be optional depending on the department.
Yep. So yeah, City of Milwaukee, again, it's not a requirement to get hired on, but a lot of the members are paramedics that either they went through it, while they're an employee, or else did it beforehand. And there's a lot of other departments that actually require you to have all these certificates before you even apply, like Firefighter 1, Firefighter 2. A lot of departments now are requiring that you're, at a paramedic level of training before you can even apply.
Oh, wow.
So again, it's, that's the main thing we do, and we still obviously go to fight fires, but a lot of it is medical. And so that's kind of the focus of a lot of departments nowadays, and having that having that training before you get hired on is actually, it's a huge asset to the department to have that training. So, but yeah, it's most of our calls. And again, it also depends on where you work. I'm in the inner city, and we get quite a few fires. And I was going through schooling, getting my degree, and I hear, the teachers always say, oh, you're mostly EMS, fires aren't, it's a small percentage of what we actually do, but, we still do, a lot of firefighting. And that's kind of the fun part that a lot of guys,
It's what you
Like,
signed
got
up
into
for.
yeah,
fire.
a lot of guys sign up for, like, you want to go in, run into the burning building, go save someone.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the, as sad as it is that, someone's house is on fire, that's what we do. And, we get excited for that because we've trained for that. And it's kind of, an adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
And so
Oh,
we
I'm
still
sure.
get quite a few fires in the inner city. So,
And you said you drive.
yep.
So does anybody just get to drive, or like is there a promotion that happens, or how, like what kind of training is needed for that?
Sure. So within the department, once you get hired on, the first level, you got to start out as firefighter. And you're doing all the hard work, the heavy lifting. And then while you're on the department, there's several, avenues for promotion. You don't have to do what I'm doing, which is HEO, heavy equipment operator. But you can go right from firefighter to lieutenant, which would, be a boss of a crew. Or you can go the route I went, which is driver. And then, you can promote up from there. It goes to lieutenant, to captain, which, you'd be in charge of a firehouse, and then to a chief. And there's different levels of chiefs. And it all basically depends on, how many people you are in charge of and how high up the ladder you want to climb. And but specifically for me, I mean, as a driver, and even any promotion, there's a little more training involved, usually more classes you have to take, just because there's more responsibility in those positions. So, and the department, at least for Milwaukee, they provide those classes. You got to sign up for them, do it on your own time. And then there's a testing process for each promotion as well. Again, competitive, you get ranked, and depending on how well you do. And then when the time comes for promotions, and
Yeah.
you'll get that.
That
So
makes sense. So how would you say, like, your education in high school and even, getting your associate's degree, how would you say maybe some of the soft skills that you obtained from those experiences, like critical thinking and problem solving and those type of things that maybe you learned in a math course in high school, how real world applicable would you say those are in your work, or how did they help you in your current career?
yeah, so I mean, in high school, I was, I didn't really know I was going to be a firefighter at the time. I was thinking, I was going to be going to business school or something. I wasn't really sure. So, I was taking some advanced courses, and obviously, like, it didn't hurt me. You know what I mean? After just going to, community college and going the firefighting route, I'd say I wouldn't necessarily needed like all those courses, but it definitely helped me get through that 2-year program at MATC. I mean, it made it a lot easier for me. I was doing, tougher courses in high school. It made it way easier after the fact. So, but yeah, just learning those basic skills. I mean, we're interacting with public on a regular basis, and, having interpersonal skills. I mean, just critical thinking skills. You're on a fire scene, or, EMS scene, and a lot of times you're using those critical thinking skills to figure out what's going on here. And, it's a chaotic scene. And I think really that all that education, it plays a role. So,
Yeah.
and not just, that, but branching out and getting your own education, you know what I mean? Like, not necessarily what you're learning in school, but, going out and, I mean, learning your own.
Lifelong learning. We
Yeah.
Yeah, the lifelong learning,
Lifelong.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it really should, always be learning. I mean,
I agree. Well, that's
Growth
that's
mindset.
yeah,
the growth mindset. But no, and that's awesome. And the reason why we always ask that question is because we get so many of our high school students that are like, "Oh, I hate math. Why am I learning math?" And
Or
that's
why am I learning this or that? This is not
right.
applicable
Yeah.
to what I'm trying to do.
the
And
critical
even,
thinking and the
well,
problem solving. Yeah.
right. You mentioned math, and I mean, it's funny, you think, like, what do you need math for firefighting? You know what I mean? But those skills, I mean, maybe I didn't need it at a certain level, but those skills actually help me in my job now. as a driver on the engine, and I'm operating a pump. So the engine, we carry water in it. We hook it to a hydrant. We operate a pump on the engine, and it, sends out water through the hose lines. And there's numbers involved with that. You got to know what your incoming pressure is, your outgoing pressure, making sure you're setting the, right numbers, and you got to do some math for friction loss and stuff like that. So like having numbers, in your head on the fly,
Yeah.
I mean, you
Yeah.
would never think of it, but
Yeah.
having a good math background, it actually helps.
And well, and performing under pressure, right? Because
Right,
like
exactly.
thinking on, like you said, thinking on the fly, using that critical thinking to be like, okay, so if I do this, this can like run through that logic in your brain before making a decision that potentially could be life threatening for people, right?
Mhm. Right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I was going to ask earlier, I know we got a little bit into the education piece too, but I'm curious to know what your favorite thing about the job is. And then on the flip side, what your least favorite thing about the job is.
Oh,
If it's what you expected when you signed up for it.
sure. So I would say it was, I guess, close to what I expected. Obviously, it's hard to tell, and every department's different, but like I had mentioned before about, going through school, and they, said it's mostly EMS, firefighter or fires are few and far between. I guess I'm kind of, shocked at how many fires there actually are in the city. A lot of them don't go reported on the news or something, it's, but so I would say it is pretty much what I expected. Living in the firehouse is a little different in an adjustment, the schedule and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But as far as, I guess, my favorite thing on the job, I would say that, I mean, just the camaraderie and hanging with the guys, getting to know people real well, and, living together, building that friendship, that relationship. Um, and then also the schedule. I mean, I really do enjoy the schedule that we have. It takes a lot to get used to, and a lot of times you can go days without sleep, but then, you can also have a couple days off in between to recoup, and yeah, having off during the day is nice.
You mentioned
So-
trades. Is that something that's specific to Milwaukee's fire department, or is this a common thing where firefighters can trade to change their schedule around?
So yeah, I mean, it could be different in each department. I think a lot of them are fairly similar. Where, say, there's a day that you need off for something, and someone else on the job needs off a different day. You can swap your days. And with Milwaukee, they're pretty, open with it, and so you swap a day with someone else, and so now you're working 48 hours straight, with only one day off in between. But then, on a day, a month from now, you got off on, a day you needed. And so you kind of help each other out that way. And it's almost like you can adjust your schedule, and it works out nice. Again, maybe not every department has the same policies, but it's definitely nice to have that flexibility to be able to change your schedule like that.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. And
Favorite?
so
You said your favorite. You didn't say your least
Oh,
favorite.
least favorite.
yeah, I was like, let's circle back to that because I'm
Oh.
curious.
I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, I guess probably would be just when it's middle of the night, 3, 4 in the morning, and you're getting up, for however many times, and you're going to the, that same person that calls every day, for, like I always give the example, like a stub toe. Just there's always someone that's calling 911 for something that, is minor. And again, we're always going to respond. Anytime you call 911, we're there. We're going to help you out. We're going to get you what you need. But that can be frustrating when, you're going off of no sleep, and it's like, why did you have to call at 4 in the morning? You couldn't have called earlier. But so it gets frustrating. But again, that's, part of the job. It's what we signed up for.
Yeah. Well, so I was recently watching a movie, and they had volunteer firefighters that were rescuing the cat from the tree. So have you ever had random calls like that, or is that just something that the media portrays?
Yeah, we don't really do cat rescues.
Well, that's good.
We always say if they got up there, they can get back down.
Right? Yeah, they have animal control for that. So I just, it was just interesting that that's what was depicted as a firefighter, because I'm like, that's not what I envisioned, but okay, if they're rescuing cats out of trees.
Like, what would be your weirdest, strangest call? Is that
Right.
something you can say on a podcast, or is it
I don't know.
maybe
I don't know
not?
if I should go into though.
A stubbed toe at 4 a.m., right? That's pretty.
You definitely see, I mean, some interesting stuff on the job. I mean,
I'm sure.
some interesting stories.
Yeah, we can leave it at that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, and you probably have to be able to stomach that too, right? Because a lot of times,
Right.
if you're the first on the scene, you might see some pretty crazy stuff, and so being able to stomach that, and I mean, as
Mhm.
far as like the training that you received in your education, or even through like the boot camp, once you're at the academy, do they kind of prepare you for that, or is it kind of just that initial shock when you get on the scene and you're like, "Holy crap, what just happened?"
Yeah. So there is some preparation for that. They do mention that in the academy, and I think it's getting better over the years with mental health awareness and helping deal with people's emotions and things that you do see on the job. Because, like you said, there's sometimes you see some pretty gruesome things. We deal with a lot of people dying and sometimes things that you can't prevent, and a lot of nasty car accidents, all kinds of stuff. People burned up in fires.
Yeah.
I would say there's nothing that can really prepare you for that. As in the classroom. I mean, you can talk about it, and um, but yeah, it's kind of something that it's one of those things that you're thrown in there, and your first day on the job, you might see something that really throws you off, and
Yeah.
um, it's something that you have to be prepared for seeing on the job. Some people can't handle it. I mean, there's people that have you know, resign from the job just because they're like, I can't, I can't handle it. I'm not
Yeah.
able to sleep at night, the things that, we do.
Yeah.
It just affects you mentally. But like I said, the department is definitely getting better with giving resources.
Mhm.
We have, a peer support team, guys you can reach out to, 24/7, you can call, talk about things you see, help deal with that, mental issue that you might have, or some emotions that you might be dealing with, even things at home. A lot of times um, firefighters are just our schedule, the things that we see on a regular basis as well can affect their home life,
Yeah.
and having those resources can be a huge help. And it's, I think the department and all the other departments around the country and are doing a lot better job of dealing with that, as opposed to back in the day when they're just kind of hey, suck it up, kid, you know but
Yeah.
so it's getting better. But yeah, it's definitely nothing you can really prepare for until you're just in it.
And yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I'm glad to hear that, because that was gonna be my follow-up question, and you kind of addressed it of like, yeah, do they provide services for counseling or support, or, things like that? Because you're right, like I think we're in a time right now where the mental health crisis is probably more than it's ever been. And, we don't often think of how our jobs can even affect us mentally, and,
Mm.
checking in and making sure we have that support. And yeah, especially with some of the things in those more hands-on jobs where you're the first at a scene, reporting, police officers, EMTs, all those things. It's got to be pretty interesting. So, kind of just tying up a little bit here, this conversation, but what would your advice be for someone who is interested in becoming a firefighter?
So I would say, first, I mean, if you can talk to anyone that you know as a firefighter, see, their experiences. I mean, that's what I did. And I think it helped a lot. Um, Something that pushed me into firefighting is every guy I talked to, every firefighter all love their job, and it's something that you don't see all the time. There's usually if people are like, it's okay, I'm just it's just a job. But firefighters like, yeah, I absolutely love my job, it's fantastic. And so talking and having that, seeing how guys think of the job, it really helps you. And then as far as getting on the job, it's when I was going through school, they said just throw applications out everywhere across the country. I mean, I didn't really want to, move out of the state that I was in, but they said the more you apply, the more experience you get through the application process, the better you'll get, and um, if you have the resource to go to, a college, they offer, like I went to a 2-year college. They also have, I think, some 4-year, bachelor degrees that you can get in firefighting. And so, starting with that education, there's also certain programs. Milwaukee has one. It's a cadet program, and they it's for specifically kids that are coming out of high school, 17 to 19-year-olds. And that's, you're not even going to college at all. You're basically getting all on the job training. So, if you go through a different hiring process to become a cadet, at 17 to 19 years old, and you become after you go through the process, and if you get hired on at that time, you're an employee of the city of Milwaukee, and they basically take you through all the training you need.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, all the courses you need, and it's a 2-year program, and then after you finish that 2-year program, they send you right into the academy, and then you start that process. So if I would have known that, when I was younger, I don't know if they were offering at the time, but it was definitely something that, I, looking back, would have been great to get into. You're getting paid to go to school, and, on the job training right there, which is nice. And I'm sure there's other, cities throughout the country that offer that. There's also, even for like younger kids, we have a JFI, Junior Fire Institute program, which is for like younger kids. I think it's like around the 13 age range, somewhere, in that range, that it kind of just gives an introduction to firefighting. They take you out onto the training ground, give the kids gear, see, put it on, see how it feels, take you up on ladders, see if you're afraid of heights, just see if it's something that you're interested in, give you a background of it. So there's programs out there that, you can get involved in if you know at an early age, that, hey, this might be something I'm interested in, to get involved and do those programs. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's a great resource, because a lot of us, you hear from a young age, well, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? And it always changes. And so having those experiences of, hey, I'm interested in this right now, let's give it a shot and see if
Right,
it's worth
try it out. Yeah.
And and some of us, it takes a little bit longer to figure out what you want to be when you grow up. You're in college and you change your major 3 times and then you figure it out, right? And
Right.
sometimes you're 40 and then you're reevaluating and have a whole new career. So
Oh, yeah. We have a wide range of, people on the job. There's, like I said, the cadets that are coming out at, 17 to 19. And, by the time they're, on the job as a firefighter, 20, 21. And then we got guys going through the academy that are almost 50 years old. They have had a whole, whole career beforehand, and they were like, I want to change in my life. This is something I've always wanted to do. And they go through it, and, and they, if they got the willpower and, train for it, and there's plenty of guys that are older that come on the job. And I keep saying guys, but girls as well.
I was gonna
I keep saying guys, but yeah, of course, women, there's plenty of women on the job. And it's something that I think is becoming more prevalent nowadays, and through our cadet program, it's, they're looking to hire more women on the job, get some more diversity, and it's definitely something that is very possible. If you're a woman, you're thinking, oh, I'm just a girl, or, I'm too small or something like that. We have people of all shapes and sizes, and you train and you go through the proper training, and you can make it.
Yeah, because I would say over half of our student population, I would say, is female at this point at Mountain Point Academy. So we might have students listening, and some of the girls out there who are wondering, can I do this?
Absolutely.
Is this something for me? Have you seen women maybe at your house or within the department that have become very successful doing what they're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. There's one at my firehouse on my shift that I work with, she's a great firefighter. I would, trust her with my life. I think she's phenomenal. And plenty of other, women too, they've gone up through the ranks. I think, like the second or third highest ranking chief in our department right now is a African-American female. There's really nothing holding you back. You think maybe back in the day, there's a stigma of, around the firehouse, a bunch of guys, hanging around, but it's definitely changing. It's, I would say getting better, going towards that direction, hiring, more minorities, more women. And it's definitely something that you can do.
yeah, that's awesome. And that's for all those people listening who are think, oh, do I even have a shot? Should I even try? Right. And it really, like you said, the sky's the limit. And it goes back to our earlier comment about lifelong learning. It's also never too late to learn something new, for these guys or women who are entering the academy in their 50s, like, hey, this is something I've always wanted to do. I'm going to go for it,
Right.
And I've worked in online education for a long time now, and I worked at an online college prior to this, and we had some people that were coming back to get their bachelor's degree at 63, and I thought it was amazing because I'm like, there you go, like you never stop learning, and it's never too late. As long as you're still living and you're here, you can do anything you set your mind to.
Exactly. And
So
going along with that, I mean, like you said, never stop learning. And even when you're on the job, it's, we're always training, we're always learning more. There's courses you can take to not only promote, but just become a better firefighter and, learn your job better. There's all kinds of things, you can do. So,
that's awesome.
So what does Josh do outside of firefighting? Any interests, anything? Like you mentioned the flexible schedule, so does that free you up to just do more fun things?
Yeah.
Or maybe a
I mean-
second job? Or what does a firefighter like to do?
so yeah, there are definitely a lot of guys in the job that have second jobs, starting their own business. With that off time that we do have and the flexibility with making trades, there's definitely that time if you want to have, another job, a side job, or I like to play sports. I played them all my life growing up, and I was actually kind of surprised at just how many different opportunities there are in the fire service, on my department, I guess. Of course, there's, other guys have the same interests, and we have all kinds of teams. We have a softball team, we have flag football team.
Like for the department, like
Right,
specifically for
the department. We play against maybe other fire departments, other police departments, or just any other teams. And we got flag football, there's basketball, I mean hockey, all kinds
Wow.
of stuff that
Yeah.
so I like to get involved in playing sports, and it's another way to bond with the guys and guys and girls and people that you work with. So yeah, I like to do that in my off time. And
That's awesome. Well, and it probably helps with your job too, right? You're keeping up that stamina.
right, keeping up, exactly, being physical, staying in shape, definitely helps, so.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great. Well, I think any parting words of wisdom you have, like if you could reflect back or tell yourself something that you like your high school self, what would you tell your high school self?
Yeah, like knowing what you know now, what advice would you give yourself?
Yeah.
Oh man. Let's see. I guess not even really relating to firefighting, but one thing would be to have fun when you're a kid. I mean, you got to learn, but you also got to have fun,
Yeah.
The other thing is don't be so confined to say like a certain curriculum, or when I was in school, I know you guys with online or education will offer a lot of different courses, but me going through school is like you had these classes, do this homework, and that's it. And I didn't really branch out and learn other things that I might have been interested in. And now it's like I love branching off and learning about different things. There's so many resources out there. I mean, just, internet learning. I mean, YouTube is a wealth of information. You got to be careful on some of this stuff, but I mean, just find your interest, and doesn't have to be, in a specific box. You know what I mean? I guess is what I would say. Reading books, like I hated reading when I was a kid, but I was always thinking about reading, the books that the school gave me. It's like
Textbooks.
branch out, try to find something else that you might be interested in, read a different book.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, I
Yes,
love
that's
that.
it.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing.
Cool.
We always just want to hear words of wisdom from somebody who's been there and what they would have known a little bit better in high school. So I think that's great insight. But yeah, thanks for
also-
joining us.
yeah, get outside and play. I mean, goes along with just being physical shape too. It's
Anjali and I have this conversation a lot with screen time, and it seems funny because we're an online school and that directly involves being in front of a screen.
right.
But you have to have a balance.
Yeah.
You have to get away from the computer. You have to get your face out of your device
Mhm.
and experience. And that's why we love our experiential learning and allowing our high school kids to earn credit for stuff that they're doing like out away from the computer.
Yeah.
So it's important. We agree. We're an online school, but sometimes you got to step away from the screen. So
Yeah,
I'm on
sure.
board with that.
Me too. And yeah, That was an awesome conversation. Thank you so much for joining us, Josh. We really appreciate it. And I learned a lot today. So thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.